Hello everyone, my name is the Storyteller, and today I will share with you some horror stories to help you fall asleep. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. But before that, write down in the comments where you are listening this and what time it is. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss upcoming horror stories. The glow of a dozen monitors illuminated the cramped basement, reflecting off rows of neatly labeled jars and tools. Ethan Vance typed rapidly, fingers slick with sweat, the rhythmic clicking of his keyboard blending with the faint hum of servers. Each keystroke built his empire, the red market, a hidden corner of the dark web where the desperate, the twisted, and the rich browsed his morbid catalog. He didn't sell drugs. He didn't sell weapons. He sold people. Not alive, of course, at least not for long. Ethan's clients came from every corner of the world, collectors of human parts, occult groups seeking sacrifices, and thrill seekers with more money than sanity. He posted photos under coded names. Lot 47, the dancer. Lot 48, the preacher. Each image was framed in eerie perfection. Victims posed like mannequins, lifeless eyes staring into the lens. Tonight, he was uploading Lot 49. The girl's body still rested on the steel table behind him. Blonde hair matted with dried blood, bruises like ink stains on pale flesh. He turned back to the screen, entered her details with clinical precision, and pressed submit. Within seconds, bids began to roll in. He smiled. They never disappoint. Across the city, in a luxurious penthouse overlooking the harbor, a man named Victor Reeves watched the same listing appear on his encrypted feed. He was a known buyer, a silent ghost who paid in untraceable crypto and never asked questions. Victor didn't want trophies, he wanted control. Each body was a reminder that money could buy anything. He clicked buy now, transferring $75,000 worth of cryptocurrency to an anonymous wallet. Somewhere in the darkness, a confirmation appeared on Ethan's screen. Payment received, shipment in progress. Ethan's eyes flicked to the basement door. It was time to make a delivery. But there was one problem: the body wasn't ready. It was missing something, something that made his work special. He turned toward the table, reaching for a scalpel, his movements delicate, precise. "Let's make you beautiful," he whispered. Hours later, as dawn crept over the streets, Ethan wrapped the finished product in black plastic and sealed it in a crate. The red market had another satisfied customer. Mara Linton had been a crime reporter for nearly 10 years, but she had never seen anything like this. A USB drive slipped anonymously into her mailbox contained folders labeled RM archives. Inside, hundreds of images, victims, all posed the same way, all sold online. Her stomach twisted as she scrolled through the photos: men, women, even children. Some had the same eerie watermark in the corner, a crimson symbol shaped like an eye. She zoomed in. The red market. It wasn't just an urban legend whispered by law enforcement. It was real, and someone out there was documenting everything. She opened the final folder. A new listing was being prepared. The victim's face wasn't blurred this time. Myra froze. It was her. A photo of her sitting at her desk, taken from outside her apartment window. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You've been selected for Lot 50. Ethan watched her through a live feed on one of his monitors. The reporter was moving fast now, lights on, bags packed, paranoid eyes scanning every shadow. He admired her spirit. Some victims begged, others fought, but the ones who ran, they were his favorite. He had planted a tracker beneath her car weeks ago, back when he first spotted her name on a police file related to dark web trafficking. He knew she'd dig too deep. They always did. As she fled the city, Ethan followed in a van that looked plain enough to vanish in traffic. Each time she slowed down, his heart raced. He whispered into his recorder, "Lot 50, intelligent, cautious, adrenaline high, perfect condition." He smiled. The bidding would be wild. By the time Mara reached the outskirts, rain poured like a curtain of glass. She pulled into an old gas station, shaking, drenched, trying to call the police. No signal. The only light came from the flickering sign above the pumps. She went inside, calling out for help, but the attendant wasn't there. The counter was empty. The radio behind the register hissed with static. Then she noticed the camera above the door turning toward her, slowly, mechanically. It wasn't recording security footage. It was streaming. She looked up in horror as a voice crackled through the radio. "Smile, Mara, you're live." Behind her, the door locked shut. The lights went out. And somewhere deep in the shadows, Ethan whispered, "Lot 50 begins now." Mara woke to the sound of dripping water and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Her head throbbed, her wrists ached, bound tightly with cable ties. She blinked, disoriented, struggling to make out her surroundings. Concrete walls, a single steel table, dozens of cameras mounted on tripods, their red lights blinking. She was in his studio. Ethan appeared from the shadows, surgical mask covering half his face. His eyes were calm, almost gentle. "Don't struggle," he said softly. "You'll bruise. My clients don't like damaged goods." "Where am I?" she rasped. He smiled. "In my world." He walked toward the table, adjusting the lights around her like a photographer preparing for a portrait session. "Do you know how many people watched you run?" She stared at him, silent. 73, he continued. "They were all bidding while you screamed." Her stomach churned. He turned the camera toward her. "Now let's introduce you properly. Lot 50, the journalist. Curious, brave, unwise." She spit in his direction. He wiped his cheek, still smiling. "Perfect," he said. "The buyers love defiance." In another country, across oceans and firewalls, a man in a velvet robe watched the live stream on an encrypted site. His username, The Collector. He leaned closer to the monitor as Ethan adjusted the frame, examining every inch of Mara's terrified face. He typed in the chat, "Increase bid to $150,000. I want her intact." Other bidders followed, their usernames flashing in a list. Serg3 on King, Belial Corp Equise. Ethan's voice came through the feed. "Gentlemen, the auction will close at midnight. You're looking at a once-in-a-lifetime acquisition." The collector smiled. He had purchased from Ethan before, smaller things. But this was different. A live auction, a conscious product. It was performance art for the depraved. And he always got what he wanted. Hours passed. Ethan left to prepare her final presentation, locking the steel door behind him. The basement fell silent except for the dripping and the faint crackle of static from a broken speaker. Mara twisted her wrists, the cable ties cutting into her skin. She scanned the room for anything sharp and saw a broken scalpel on the floor, glinting near a drain. She shuffled toward it, inch by inch, wincing as plastic tore into her wrists. Finally, she caught it with her foot, dragging it closer. The blade was dull but jagged enough. Every movement felt like fire, but the ties began to give way. She freed one hand, then the other. The cameras kept recording. She turned toward the door, a heavy lock reinforced. No way out, but above her near the pipes was a small maintenance vent. She climbed onto a crate, fingers trembling, trying to pull the cover off. Footsteps echoed. Ethan was returning. She slipped the blade into her pocket, dropped down and sat still, pretending the ties were still on. When the door opened, he stepped inside with a box of tools and a black apron. "Let's continue," he said. And when he turned his back, she lunged. The blade sank into his shoulder. He screamed, stumbling backward, the tools clattering to the floor. Mara ran for the door, but he caught her arm, dragging her down. They fought violently, fists, screams, blood smearing the concrete. She clawed at his mask, tearing it off. Beneath it was a face that looked ordinary, too ordinary. Just a man. Brown hair, light stubble, eyes devoid of empathy. "You shouldn't have done that," he hissed. She spat in his face again, twisting free and slamming the door shut behind her. Ethan roared, pounding the metal from the inside. Mara sprinted down a narrow hallway lined with freezers and cages. Inside them, bodies. Some whole, some not, each tagged with a barcode. She gagged, trembling, stumbling over plastic-wrapped limbs. Then she saw a stairwell at the far end, a faint hope of escape. She ran for it, barefoot, bleeding, gasping for air. Behind her, the pounding stopped. Silence. Then a voice echoing through the speakers. "Run, Lot 50. Let's make this interesting." Mara burst into a large room lit by computer monitors, a control center. Multiple streams played at once, each showing a different victim in various stages of death. She realized Ethan wasn't just a killer. He was broadcasting everything. Chat logs filled the screens, usernames commenting as if watching a reality show. "Run, run. She's my favorite lot so far. Bet she won't make it out alive." The horror deepened. She could see herself on one of the screens, the camera feed following her as she moved. He had eyes everywhere. Then suddenly, one of the streams changed. A masked man appeared, not Ethan. He spoke directly to the viewers. "The cellar is compromised. We're taking control." The chat exploded. Ethan's empire, it seemed, wasn't his alone anymore. Someone else was watching, and they wanted the game to continue, but with new rules. Ethan slammed his fist into the control desk, screens flickering under the blow. The system wasn't responding. His servers, his life's work, were being hijacked right in front of him. On one of the monitors, a black screen appeared. Then, a symbol began to burn through the static, the same crimson eye that had marked all his listings. Only now it blinked. Text scrolled across the screen, letters appearing one at a time. "You built the market. Now it BLNGS2 US." Ethan's pulse raced. He yanked open a drawer and pulled out a hard drive, his last offline backup. His hands trembled as he inserted it, trying to isolate the breach. "Not possible," he muttered. "I built every firewall myself." A distorted voice came through his headset, deep, robotic, dripping with mockery. "Every seller thinks he's untouchable, but you've been watched for months, Ethan." He froze. No one had called him by name, not his real name, not online. "You sell your victims for profit," the voice continued. "We sell the sellers, you're next." The screens went black. All but one, the live feed showing Mara, barefoot and bloodstained, creeping through the hallway he thought was secure. He stared at her image, rage and fear burning together. "Not yet," he whispered. He grabbed his blade and the camera rig. "This is still my show." Mara descended deeper into the basement corridors, where the smell of rot grew thicker with every breath. Pipes groaned above her, dripping a dark, viscous liquid that stained her arms as she brushed past. The hallway ended in a large iron door marked Storage 3, half buried in grime. She pushed it open with shaking hands. Inside were rows of steel cabinets stacked to the ceiling, each labeled with a number. Some were empty, some hummed faintly, freezers still running. When she opened the nearest one, her stomach turned. Inside was a woman's head, frozen, eyes open, mouth twisted in terror. The tag on the inside read, "Lot 29 sold to Equise." Mara stumbled back, covering her mouth, her eyes darting from cabinet to cabinet. Every number represented a person, a life. She realized what Ethan had been doing, preserving parts of his victims for later sale, cataloging them like collectibles. It wasn't just murder, it was an industry. Her trembling fingers brushed against a clipboard lying on the floor. On it was a shipping manifest, dozens of destinations, dates, and digital wallet codes. but one address caught her attention. It wasn't digital, it was physical. An old warehouse on the edge of the city. "This isn't just him," she whispered. "There are others." Then she heard footsteps, slow, measured. Ethan's voice echoed softly through the room. "You weren't supposed to see that, Mara." She ducked behind a cabinet, heart hammering. The footsteps came closer. He was calm again, the predator regaining his rhythm. "I try to keep the mystery alive. You weren't supposed to look behind the curtain." "You built a nightmare," she hissed, trembling. "No," he said. "I built a market. Nightmares are just good business." She tightened her grip on the broken scalpel, her only weapon. The lights flickered, the hum of the freezers deepening. And when she peeked around the corner, Ethan was gone. Hours later, Mara found herself stumbling through the rain, barefoot, limping from exhaustion. She had escaped the house, though she barely remembered how. All she could recall was fire, flashing lights, and a scream that didn't sound human. Now, following the address on the manifest, she reached the edge of the industrial district, a forgotten stretch of warehouses and freight yards cloaked in fog. The building matched the coordinates exactly, a massive hangar with rusted panels and boarded windows. The logo on the side was faded, unreadable, except for one word still visible: distribution. Inside, it smelled of dust, oil, and old blood. Rows of shipping crates stretched into the darkness, all marked with a crimson eye symbol. Each crate bore the same label, RM Export. And inside them, God help her, were human remains. Limbs wrapped in plastic, eyes sealed in jars, skin flattened and preserved like leather. Hundreds of victims. Hundreds of lots. She turned and vomited, gasping for air. The walls were lined with monitors and servers, more advanced than anything she'd seen in Ethan's basement. This wasn't one man's operation. It was a network, a collective, and someone else was running it now. A screen flickered to life. A new message appeared. "Welcome, Lot 50. We've been waiting for you." The voice that came through the speakers was calm, soothing, disturbingly human. Ethan Vance was a good salesman, but he was sloppy. Emotional. "You, Mara, are something else. You see the story." Her voice shook. "Who are you?" "We are the overseers. We've run the red market for decades. Ethan was just a contractor. You've already helped us more than you know." "What are you talking about?" "Your reporting brought eyes to the market, eyes that fear us, hate us, but still watch. You gave us an audience, Mara. You turned our shadows into entertainment." The monitors flickered, showing headlines, her old articles about the dark web, the anonymous murders, the urban legends. Each one accompanied by streaming numbers, view counts, social media reposts. "You spread the story," the voice said. "You made us viral. That's why you were chosen." Her throat went dry. "You're insane." "No, we're profitable." Then a new image appeared on the central screen. Ethan restrained, bleeding, his face swollen. Behind him, masked figures in black stood silently, each wearing the crimson eye emblem. "Your cellar has been sold," the overseer said. "To whom?" Mara whispered. "To everyone." And with that, the feed switched, broadcasting Ethan's torture to the same dark web viewers who once watched his auctions. He screamed, pleading, cursing the same clients he once served. The chat filled with laughter. Mara turned away, shaking. Now she understood. The red market wasn't a platform. It was a cult of consumption. Mara stumbled backward, trying to find an exit. Every door she approached slammed shut automatically, locking with mechanical precision. The overseers were controlling everything: the lights, the locks, the cameras. They were watching her like a specimen. She looked up. Every corner had a red blinking lens. "You don't win this way," she said aloud, her voice trembling. "Someone will find me. Someone will expose you." "Oh, Mara," the overseer replied, voice cold and amused. "You're already exposing us, right now." The monitors showed live streams again, her, in the warehouse, being watched by thousands. The chat window filled with messages. "She's beautiful. Keep her alive. Make her the new seller. Lot 50 deserves a promotion." She screamed and threw a pipe at the nearest monitor, shattering the glass. Sparks erupted. "Excellent," the overseer whispered. "Show them your rage. They love authenticity." Something snapped inside her. If she couldn't escape, she'd destroy the show. She grabbed a rusted crowbar from the floor, swinging it at the main power panel. Sparks exploded. The lights flickered, then died. In the darkness, alarms blared and distant footsteps thundered through the halls. She hid behind a crate, holding the crowbar tightly as red emergency lights flickered to life. Through the haze of smoke, she saw movement. Ethan. He was free. His face half burned, his smile half insane. "Guess we're both on the menu now," he whispered. Then the alarms cut off, and the overseer's voice returned, louder than ever. "Final auction commencing. 2 lots remain. Let's see who survives." The hum of servers returned, a low, droning vibration that filled the warehouse like the growl of something ancient waking from sleep. Red lights blinked in rows, illuminating the endless crates around Mara and Ethan. The central monitors flickered on, displaying a countdown. "Final auction, Lot 50/Lot 51. Bidding begins in 00:14:59. Mara stared horrified. "Lot 51. Ethan smirked through his blood and broken teeth. "That would be me." He looked up at the cameras. "You sick bastards think you can turn me into entertainment. I built this market." His words echoed through the hall, and the overseer's voice came through the loudspeakers, calm and surgical. "Correction, you built the foundation. We built the audience." Ethan grabbed a steel rod from the ground, his hand trembling. "You think you can sell me?" "Oh, Ethan," the voice replied. "We already have. The buyers are waiting to see who survives. The winning bid will claim the remains." The timer continued to count down. 14 minutes. Mara stepped back, breath shallow. "They want us to kill each other." Ethan turned toward her, eyes wild. "They don't want us to, they're paying for it." The lights dimmed. Sirens wailed in the distance. Overhead, a camera droned word to life, its lens tracking their every move. The game had begun. They moved through the maze of crates, silent, tense, each step echoing in the dark. Ethan moved like a ghost, crouched low, scanning for movement. His knife gleamed faintly under the flashing lights. Mara followed at a distance, gripping the crowbar, every nerve screaming for her to run, but knowing there was nowhere left to go. Voices whispered from the speakers, not the overseer this time, but the audience. "She's behind him. No, wait, he's flanking. Come on, someone bleed." Their words were everywhere, omnipresent, feeding the madness. Ethan stopped suddenly, whispering, "You hear them too, don't you? The customers, they never stop talking." She didn't answer. He turned his head slowly toward her, smiling faintly. "You know what they'll pay extra for." Myra raised the crowbar. He leaned closer, fear. He lunged. The metal rod met his blade with a sharp clang. Sparks flew. They struggled in the half-light, grunting, shoving, their shadows writhing on the walls. Ethan was stronger, but she was faster, fueled by terror. He slashed her arm. She screamed, swinging blindly and striking his ribs. He staggered back, coughing blood. The overseer's voice whispered over the speakers. "Perfect, keep going. The bids are climbing." Mara broke free, sprinting deeper into the warehouse. The floor gave way to a stairwell that descended into darkness. She stumbled down, the air growing colder with every step. At the bottom, she found a vast underground chamber. a labyrinth of concrete tunnels lined with power cables and old machines. The hum was louder here, almost like a heartbeat. She realized she was standing beneath the servers themselves, the core of the red market. Rows of blinking towers stretched into the shadows, and in the center stood a glass pod filled with cables and dark fluid. Inside it floated a human form, a body, or what was left of one. Half machine, half flesh, eyes sewn shut. Tubes feeding into its veins. On the pod's display screen, the overseer node active. Myra approached slowly, trembling. The voice that haunted the speakers seemed to pulse from the figure. "We are many," it said softly. "A network of sellers, a hive of watchers. We do not die, we replicate." She raised her crowbar. "You're done replicating. You destroy one node and 10 more awaken. But we do thank you, Mara." "For what?" she spat. "For bringing emotion back to the market. Your fear is authentic, and authenticity sells." She screamed and smashed the pod with all her strength. Glass shattered. Black fluid spilled across the floor. The form convulsed, emitting an inhuman shriek before collapsing into stillness. For a brief moment, all the lights flickered out. Then somewhere above her, she heard Ethan laughing. Ethan limped into the chamber, blood streaming from his arm. He was holding one of the camera drones by the rotor, dragging it like a leash. "You did it," he said, voice echoing. "You killed their god." She backed away. "Stay away from me." "Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you." He dropped the drone in front of her. The lens turned, still recording. "Don't you get it?" he whispered. "You're the new overseer now, they'll worship you." She shook her head violently. "No, I'm ending this." He laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "There is no end. The viewers are still watching. You can kill every machine, every buyer, every server, and they'll still watch, because you fed them the story." He reached into his coat, pulling out a small flash drive. "This is the backup. Everything, the names, the money, the addresses. You want justice? Here it is." He tossed it toward her. It landed at her feet. She hesitated, then picked it up. Ethan smiled faintly. "Now run. I'll give them a better show." He turned toward the nearest camera and raised his knife, shouting to the invisible audience. "Are you watching, you parasites? This is what you paid for." Then he drove the blade into his own throat. Blood sprayed across the lens, blurring the feed. The chat exploded into chaos. Mara screamed, backing away as his body collapsed, twitching. The alarm started again. "Data breach DETSCTD. Lockdown initiated." She looked down at the flash drive, Ethan's final gift. If she could get out, she could expose everything. The tunnels shook as systems overloaded. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Flames erupted from server stacks, the smell of burning metal filling the air. Mara ran. She climbed the stairwell, coughing through the smoke, clutching the flash drive to her chest. Behind her, the overseer's voice flickered weakly through the speakers, distorted and fatting. "We are eternal." She burst through the upper floor door, stumbling into the warehouse's main hall, now a hellscape of fire and chaos. Crates burned like coffins, drones crashed into walls, and the red eye symbol glowed faintly on every screen before winking out. She pushed through the side exit, into the cold night. Rain poured down, sizzling against the flames behind her. The building collapsed in on itself, sending sparks into the storm. She fell to her knees on the muddy ground, shaking, sobbing, clutching the flash drive tightly. Sirens wailed in the distance, police, fire, rescue. Someone had seen the explosion. As she sat there, drenched and trembling, a single phone buzzed inside her pocket. A number she didn't recognize. With shaking fingers, she answered. A familiar voice whispered through static. "You can't burn what doesn't exist." She froze. "Who is this?" "We told you, Mara. There are many of us." She looked up across the burning horizon. Drones hovered like black insects, recording her. Streaming. The feed went live again. The screen caption read, "The Red Market Reborn." Mara didn't remember how she got to the hospital. She woke under bright lights, the steady beep of a heart monitor beside her. Her arm was bandaged, her throat raw, and everything smelled of antiseptic and smoke. For a few seconds, she thought it had been a nightmare. The warehouse, Ethan, the burning servers. Then she saw the flash drive lying on her bedside table, sealed in a plastic evidence bag. Reality hit her like a knife. A detective sat nearby, a tired man in a gray suit. "You're lucky to be alive," he said quietly. "We found you 2 miles from a collapsed structure. Fire department said it was some kind of illegal data center." "Illegal," she repeated, her voice cracked. "You have no idea." He glanced at the bag. "We'll run the drive through cybercrimes. Maybe it'll tell us who was behind all this." "No," Mara said quickly. "Don't, it's not safe." The detective frowned. "You expect me to believe." But before he could finish, the monitor beside her flickered. The heart rate display changed, lines of code replacing her vitals. "Hello, Lot 50. The screen went black. The detective leaned in. "What the hell?" Every monitor in the ward turned on at once, showing the same red eye symbol. The hospital lights dimmed. Then a voice, distorted and familiar, echoed through the PA system. "We told you, Mara, the market never dies, it expands." The detective drew his gun instinctively. Mara grabbed his arm. "Get me out of here now." They left through the back corridors, alarms wailing. Outside, the night smelled of rain and smoke again. Mara shivered in the thin hospital gown as the detective rushed her into an unmarked car. He turned to her once they were on the road. "Start from the beginning. What's on that drive?" She hesitated, staring out the window. The streets blurred in streaks of neon and rain. "It's everything," she said finally. "Every sale, every victim, every buyer." He glanced at her. "If that's true, you just brought down half the black web." "Not half," she whispered. "All of it." They drove in silence for a long time. Finally, she asked, "Where are we going?" He hesitated. "Secure location, cyber unit headquarters, no signals in or out." She felt a flicker of relief until she noticed something. The same crimson eye sticker, small and half torn, was plastered to the dashboard. Her blood went cold. "Where did you get this car?" she whispered. He didn't answer. His knuckles tightened on the steering wheel. "Detective," she said, "answer me." He smiled faintly. "They said you'd ask that." He hit the locks. The car veered sharply off the road, tires screeching as it turned down an abandoned industrial path. Mara grabbed for the door handle, locked. "Who are you?" she shouted. The detective's eyes flicked to the rear-view mirror, calm, mechanical. "We monitor survivors," he said. "We make sure they serve a purpose." "What purpose?" "To keep the story alive." He pulled a small device from his pocket, a recording transmitter. "Smile for the viewers, Lot 50. She slammed her elbow into the glass, shattering it. The rain and wind burst in. The car swerved. He cursed, grabbing her arm, but she twisted, kicking him hard in the ribs. The car skidded sideways, slammed into a guardrail and flipped. For a moment, everything went white. When Mara came to, she was lying in the mud, gasping. The car was upside down, smoke pouring from the engine. The detective hung in his seat, unmoving. But when she crawled closer, she saw it. A faint red light blinking beneath his collar. A microchip. Not a badge, a tracker. They were inside the system too. Everyone was. She took the flash drive from the wreck, limping away into the darkness. 2 days later, Mara sat in a motel room with the curtains drawn. The flash drive lay plugged into a burner laptop. its data crawling across the screen, endless files, financial records, encrypted logs, names, coordinates, videos, and one folder titled Live FEDS. When she opened it, she saw dozens of active streams, people in cages, victims pleading for help, some feeds labeled pending sale. Her stomach turned. She had thought she'd ended it, but the market had simply moved servers, rebuilt itself somewhere else. She needed help. She connected to a secure, journalist network she'd used years ago. A voice message pinged back almost instantly. "We've seen your name on the dark web again, Mara. If this is real, you're in danger. Send what you can, we'll publish." She transferred the files, hands trembling. Then she froze. Her webcam light was on. She turned it off. It blinked back on again. Then a new window opened automatically, the live feed of her motel room. Thousands of viewers were watching. Lot 50 RETORNS. Live broadcast exclusive. Her own face stared back at her from the screen, terrified. "Not again," she whispered. By morning, the story had exploded across every platform. Headlines filled the news. Journalist leaks massive dark web operation. Videos from the flash drive spread like wildfire. Every outlet ran with it. The red market was real. The government was investigating. Arrests were made. For the first time in months, the world seemed awake. Mara sat in a safe house, wrapped in a blanket, watching the coverage. They called her a hero. Survivors came forward. Donations poured in. But every time she looked at the footage, she noticed something strange. The symbol, the crimson eye, flashed in the background of several clips, not visible to most viewers, but there, like a watermark. And when she searched her name online, every image was marked with a new caption: "Owned by the market." She unplugged the TV, trembling. Her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. "We told you, Mara, the audience always wins." The safe house lights dimmed. Her laptop turned on by itself, camera glowing. The screen filled with static. Then her reflection appeared, grainy and glitching. Her own voice echoed back, distorted, mechanical. "Welcome back, seller." She stared in horror as her reflection smiled. Outside, across thousands of screens, a new auction went live. The Red Market presents Lot 50, now open for bidding. 3 days vanished. Mara didn't remember sleeping, eating, or moving. Only the cold hum of the screens that wouldn't turn off no matter how many times she unplugged them. Every device, every outlet, every phone in the safe house turned itself back on. Her own face looped on repeat, pale, wide-eyed, whispering things she hadn't said. "Welcome back, seller. Smile for the buyers. The market needs you." She smashed one monitor, then another, glass cutting her palm. The voice still spoke from the shards. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. The lights in the neighboring apartments flickered, one by one, until the whole street was pulsing in time with the static. Then from the alley below, she saw the silhouettes, people standing perfectly still, each holding a phone raised toward her window. Their screens glowed red. Mara stumbled back from the glass. She recognized one of the faces below, the detective. His neck was twisted, his eyes black, but his mouth stretched into a grin as the voice from the static whispered through him. "You gave us the audience, Mara. Now we'll give them you." The floor beneath her feet buzzed. She looked down. The pattern of the cracked tiles formed the market symbol. She ran for the door. But when she opened it, the hallway outside wasn't the motel anymore. It was the warehouse. Cold metal humming wires, the air stinking of rust and rot. The market had rebuilt itself inside the feed. The hum followed her as she walked. Rows of computer towers stretched endlessly on both sides, stacked high like graves. Each screen showed a different face, some screaming, some praying, some just staring in silence. And through all of them, one thread remained constant, a faint reflection of her. She passed one screen where her younger self sat in the newsroom, smiling nervously during a live broadcast. Another showed her standing in the ashes of the burned-out data center. They weren't memories, they were feeds. Every second of her life had been streamed, cataloged, bought, and sold. Mara, a voice whispered behind her. She turned. Ethan stood in the corridor. Half of his face was burned, one eye completely white, but he was smiling. "You destroyed the shell," he said softly, "but the core survived. The market isn't just servers, it's people, viewers, demand. You made them hungry." She backed away. "You're dead." "Am I?" He tilted his head. "Or are you just watching a replay?" He raised a hand, and the walls around them flickered. Every screen changed to show her standing there, bleeding, terrified. "Lot 50 live." "Don't you see?" Ethan whispered. "You can't expose the market. You are the market." The lights went out. When she woke, she was strapped to a chair. Metal restraints pinned her wrists and ankles. The room was dark except for one screen in front of her, showing a live chat window. Thousands of comments streamed down the side. "Is this real? Who's she? She looks scared, OMG. Start the bidding." Her heart pounded. "Stop, please." A robotic voice filled the air. "Welcome viewers to the rebirth of the red market. Tonight's feature, the seller herself." She struggled against the restraints, screaming, but the audience only cheered. Someone typed, "Make her talk about the files." Another, "How much for the drive?" The voice chuckled. "Let's begin with a story. Once there was a journalist who wanted to reveal the truth, but she forgot the truth doesn't set you free, it sets the price." The lights flared. A dozen cameras lowered from the ceiling, circling her like vultures. Her reflection filled every lens, and she saw something in her own eyes she didn't recognize anymore. Not fear, not pain, recognition. Time melted. The feed ran endlessly. Mara spoke when the voice commanded, screamed when the bidders demanded it. At first she resisted. She cursed them, begged them to turn away. But the audience numbers only grew, millions watching from every country, every device, their curiosity masquerading as horror. The market didn't need a warehouse anymore. It was built into the network itself. Every click, every view, every share added another brick to its foundation. And the algorithm adored her. Whenever she closed her eyes, she saw the chat scroll in the dark behind her eyelids. Lot 50 trending worldwide. New seller unlocked. Exclusive drops coming soon. Her voice began to break apart, digitized, auto-tuned, replayed in loops. The sound of her crying became background music for the next upload. Sometimes she glimpsed Ethan again, moving through the feeds like a ghost, whispering instructions to the cameras. Other times she saw new faces, men, women, children being uploaded, tagged, sold. And every now and then, she saw herself in the corner of their screens, watching, smiling. She couldn't tell if she was still captive, or if she had become part of the code. No one knows when the feed ended. Some said the servers were seized in an international sting operation. Others claimed the market went private, invitation only, hidden deeper than ever before. But on the dark web, the legend of the seller grew. Some users say you can still find her broadcast if you know the right sequence of links, 30 in total, hidden across dead forums and encrypted boards. If you follow them all, the final stream opens. A room dark and flickering. A woman sitting in front of a camera, her eyes hollow, her face lit by the glow of 1,000 monitors. She speaks in a soft, calm voice. "Welcome back to the market. The audience is eternal. The stream never ends." Behind her, the screens show the viewer's own reflections. Each person who watches sees themselves added to the feed, grainy, pixelated, then tagged with a number. Lot 51, Lot 52, Lot 53. And somewhere deep in the static, if you listen closely, you can still hear her whispering through the wires. Every viewer feeds the market. Every click makes me stronger. Then the stream freezes, leaving one last frame, her face staring straight into yours, smiling faintly, eyes glowing red. The seller lives. It started with the speech. Every channel, every feed, every billboard in the country cut to the same live broadcast at exactly 6 p.m. A man in a black suit appeared, smiling like a funeral director. "Citizens," he said, "after decades of crime, corruption, and chaos, the new order has decided on a remedy. For one night every year, all crime, including murder, will be legal. Weapons, vengeance, justice, whatever you wish. The purge begins tonight at midnight." People thought it was a hoax. Mara and her friends laughed at it while scrolling through memes. Her father said, "They'll never allow that." But the government wasn't joking. By 10 p.m., emergency broadcasts confirmed it. Hospitals, fire stations, and police departments were closing for 24 hours. "Prepare, lock your doors, and pray," the announcer said flatly. At 11:58, sirens wailed across the city. Everyone stopped whatever they were doing. 2 minutes later, the world ended. The first gunshot echoed from the next street over. Then another, then a dozen more. Mara ducked beneath her living room window as the city erupted outside. Explosions, screams, laughter. The sound was like thunder rolling through blood. Her father dragged a couch against the door. "Stay low, don't move." Her younger brother whimpered. From the window, she saw figures running in the street, people in masks, some carrying bats, others waving phones, recording everything. Someone had spray painted on a nearby wall, "Cleanse your sins, 24 hours only." A man was dragged from his car, screaming. Fire burst from a liquor store across the block. The smell of gasoline and burning plastic filled the air. The purge was real, and it was just beginning. By 1 a.m., half the neighborhood was gone. Windows shattered, alarms blared, dogs barked until they didn't anymore. Mara's father peeked through the blinds. "The Petersons' house, it's on fire." The Petersons had lived next door for 15 years. They'd hosted barbecues, lent tools, babysat Mara's brother. Now flames licked their porch while a group of masked men laughed around it, taking turns smashing the windows with crowbars. One of them turned, noticing movement in Mara's window. He pointed straight at her. "Dad," she whispered, "they saw us." Her father loaded the shotgun they'd kept for emergencies. "Then this is an emergency." They heard footsteps approaching. Then knocking, gentle, polite. "Open up, we just want to talk." Her father aimed the gun at the door. "Go to the basement," he hissed. The knocking turned to pounding. Then came the voice again, different this time, feminine, familiar. "Mara, it's Mrs. Peterson. Please let me in. They're gone. They killed my husband, please." Her father froze. It could be a trick. The voice whimpered, "Please." Silence followed, heavy and endless. Then the doorknob twisted. A single shot shattered the night. They hid underground. The basement smelled of dust and oil and old memories. A single bulb flickered overhead. Mara held her brother close while her father watched the door. "Do you think she's alive?" her brother whispered. Mara didn't answer. The scream from upstairs still rang in her ears. Outside, the chaos swelled. Car alarms, laughter, sirens that meant nothing now. The city itself seemed to breathe violence. The bulb flickered again and died. Darkness swallowed them whole. Then came a sound from the furnace room. A faint tapping. Once, twice, then scratching. Her father raised the flashlight. The vent cover rattled. Something moved behind it, slow, deliberate. A hand burst through the metal slats. They screamed. Her father fired once. The sound deafened the room. When the smoke cleared, a masked face peered through the hole. The intruder twitched once, twice, and went still. Mara stared at the body jammed halfway into their basement. "Dad," she whispered, "there are more upstairs." Footsteps creaked above them. The attackers broke through the kitchen door around 2:30 a.m. Boards snapped, glass shattered. The entire house shook with impact. Mara's father shouted for them to hide while he ran up the stairs, shotgun in hand. The last thing she saw of him was the flash of the muzzle as he fired toward the hallway. Then came silence, followed by a scream that wasn't his. Her brother trembled beside her. "He'll come back, he will." But the footsteps descending the basement stairs were heavy and unfamiliar. She grabbed her brother's hand and crawled behind the water heater. Dust choked the air. Through a crack, she saw 3 figures enter, laughing quietly, swinging flashlights. "The old man's down," one said. "Check the rest." Another voice higher, almost playful. "Find the girl. They pay double for young ones tonight." Her brother whimpered. She covered his mouth, heart hammering so hard she thought it would give them away. The flashlight beam swept inches from their faces. Then suddenly a loud crash upstairs, glass exploding, tires screeching. Someone shouted, "Cops, move." The men ran back up the stairs. Mara exhaled, shaking. "We're leaving," she whispered. Outside, the city burned red under the emergency lights. The purge was far from over. They ran until their lungs burned. Smoke hung over the city like a storm cloud, turning the moon into a red eye watching everything. Cars lay overturned. Fires roared from open storefronts. Bodies lined the sidewalks, some masked, some not. Every few blocks, they'd hear laughter echoing from somewhere unseen. Mara held her brother's hand tightly. "Stay close, don't stop." They passed a playground. Swings moved in the wind, chains creaking. Someone had spray painted over the slide. 12 HOURS left, cleanse your souls. A gunshot cracked nearby. Mara pulled her brother behind a car. Through the shattered window, she saw 2 men dragging someone into the street, cheering like hunters with a trophy. She pressed her brother's face against her shoulder. "Don't look." They kept moving, stepping over broken glass, past a burning billboard that flashed the government's logo, now smeared with blood. As they neared the downtown overpass, they heard an engine. A van, painted black, crawling down the road with a loudspeaker on top. "The night is yours," a voice shouted. "Purge clean, purge pure." Mara ducked behind a dumpster. The van slowed, its headlights sweeping across the alley. Inside, she saw figures wearing executioners' hoods, holding cameras. They weren't just killing, they were streaming it. The van stopped. One of them looked right at her. Mara froze. Her brother squeezed her hand until it hurt. The masked man tilted his head, then laughed. "2 live ones," he said through a distorted mic. "Get the camera." They ran. The alley was narrow, filled with trash bins and puddles reflecting firelight. The van's engine roared behind them, tires splashing through the filth. A door slid open. Gunfire exploded. Bullets punched holes into the brick beside her. They turned a corner and ducked into an abandoned laundromat. Machines lay rusted, doors hanging open like mouths. She shoved her brother into a dryer and whispered, "Don't make a sound." Footsteps crunched outside. A flashlight beam cut through the broken windows. Come out," the voice sang. Mara gripped a shard of glass, crouching behind the counter. Her heartbeat drowned out everything. The door creaked open. 2 men stepped in, laughing softly. One held a machete, the other filmed on a phone. "We'll get good views for this one," one said. #LivePurge. Mara's rage burned through her fear. As the first man stepped past the counter, she lunged, driving the glass into his neck. Blood sprayed across the washing machines. The other man screamed, raising his phone like a weapon, but she smashed it against the counter and slammed his head into the tile. For a moment, only silence. Then the phone's cracked screen flickered, still recording. Live purge, 124 viewers. Mara dropped it. We have to go. They slipped out the back as sirens wailed again, though no one was coming to help. By dawn, the fires dimmed to embers. The air was thick with ash. Mara's legs ached, her brother limping beside her. They found shelter in a church at the edge of the district. The doors were barricaded with pews, candles flickering in the darkness. Inside were survivors, a dozen people huddled in silence. An old priest stood at the altar, holding a rusted cross. "You're safe here," he whispered, "for now." Mara collapsed against the wall, trembling. Her brother finally slept, curled up beside her. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to breathe. But peace didn't last. From outside came chanting, low, rhythmic, growing louder. The priest's face turned pale. "They've found us." Mara peered through a crack in the door. A crowd gathered outside the church, torches in hand, wearing white robes painted with red handprints. They sang in unison, "Cleanse the earth, burn the sinners." The priest clutched his cross. They call themselves the cleansed. They believe killing is holy. Someone outside shouted, "Bring them out. The Lord demands sacrifice." A bottle of fire shattered against the stained glass, igniting the curtains. The priest turned to Mara. "Take the back passage, go now." She grabbed her brother, running for the hidden door behind the altar as flames crawled up the walls. The tunnel behind the altar led into the crypts. Cold air and rot filled the narrow path as they crawled through the darkness. Mara could still hear the screams from the sanctuary, the gunshots, the laughter, the smell of burning wood. Her brother whispered, "Why are they doing this?" "Because they can," she said softly. "Because someone told them it was okay." They emerged in a cemetery behind the church. Smoke rose through the trees, glowing orange in the distance. Then came footsteps, not theirs. From between the gravestones, figures appeared. White robes, blood-soaked crosses. The cleansed. One of them smiled, holding a spiked club. "The dead walk tonight, brothers. Shall we join them?" Mara pushed her brother behind a headstone. "Run when I say." The cultists spread out, humming that same dreadful chant. She picked up a piece of broken gravestone. When one lunged, she swung hard, smashing his jaw. Another grabbed her from behind. She bit his hand and broke free. Her brother screamed, throwing dirt into one attacker's eyes. They ran, weaving through graves. Then headlights blinded them. A car screeched to a halt. A voice shouted, "Get in." The driver was a woman, maybe 30, her hair tied back and her face streaked with soot. "Move it," she shouted as she fired a pistol out the window. Mara shoved her brother into the back seat and slammed the door. The woman hit the gas, sending the car flying down the hill. Through the rearview mirror, Mara saw the cleansed chasing them, waving torches. When they were finally miles away, the woman slowed. "You two are lucky," she said. "Those psychos burned half the district last year." Mara stared at her. "You've done this before." The woman nodded grimly. "Second purge. They said it'd be once a year, but people didn't stop when it ended. They just kept going." Mara frowned. "You mean this isn't the first night?" The woman smiled darkly. "Sweetheart, the first purge never really stopped." She turned down, an empty highway lined with wrecked cars and bodies. Signs flickered overhead. "The purge, 6 hours remaining." Mara looked at her brother, who stared silently out the window. In the distance, the city still burned. The woman said softly, "If you want to live, you'll have to stop pretending you're one of the good ones." The highway was a graveyard. Twisted metal, abandoned cars, and smoke rising from overturned vehicles stretched for miles. Mara gripped the seatbelt. Her brother pressed against her. The woman driving didn't slow. "They're everywhere," she said. "Roadblocks, looters, people hunting anyone who moves." Mara swallowed hard. Why do they do this? The driver shook her head. Because they can. Because someone told them it was okay. And because the government wants them scared enough to obey the rest of the year. Her brother's eyes widened. The government made this. "Every year," the driver said grimly. "They test obedience, test fear. It's not just a purge, it's control." A siren wailed in the distance. Mara looked back. Shadows moved across the overpass, people running with bats, knives, even rifles. The purge was alive and it had no mercy. By morning, they reached an abandoned military checkpoint. Behind it, a bunker loomed. Steel doors rusted shut. The driver got out, checking the perimeter. "This is it, safe for now." Mara followed, dragging her brother, scanning the horizon. She noticed scorch marks and graffiti. No survivors, purge clean. The bunker door groaned as the driver forced it open. Inside, they found supplies: water, canned food, and old surveillance monitors. On one screen, a map of the city displayed flashing red dots, movement detected everywhere. Some labeled active purgers. Mara froze. "They're tracking people." The driver nodded. "Not just tracking, predicting. The purge isn't random. It's designed to push people into fear, into panic. The chaos is the point." Her brother whimpered. "Why do they make us hide?" "Because fear is part of the experiment," the driver said. "And experiments need witnesses." While her brother slept, Mara explored the bunker. Files lined the walls, dusty but intact. In one corner, she found a stack of envelopes marked confidential, Purge LOGS. She opened one, revealing detailed reports, locations, victims, even notes on psychological responses. A voice crackled over the bunker's intercom. "Attention, purge participants. Remember, compliance improves survival rates. Observe, adapt, survive." Mara's stomach twisted. These weren't just criminals out in the streets. The government was orchestrating everything. Suddenly, a monitor flickered. A live feed showed their own bunker from an external camera. Someone outside was watching. "They know we're here," Mara whispered. The driver didn't flinch. "They always know. Cameras, drones, informants. Every move is recorded. Every fear cataloged." Her brother tugged at her sleeve. "Do we leave?" Mara looked at the screens, at the map dotted in red. "We can't stay." Mara drew a rough map from the bunker's surveillance system. "There's a subway tunnel," she whispered. "It runs underground for miles. We can move without being seen." The driver nodded. Risky, but better than running through the streets. They packed water, snacks, and whatever makeshift weapons they could find: crowbars, pipes, even kitchen knives. As they approached the tunnel entrance, they heard the distant sounds of the city: screams, sirens, and chanting. "How many hours left?" her brother asked. Mara checked her watch. 6, maybe less. Every shadow could be death. Every noise could be someone hunting them. But they had no choice. The subway was their only shot at surviving the night. The tunnel was damp and dark, the smell of rust and decay filling their noses. They moved silently, careful not to step on debris. Above, the city roared fire, sirens, and chaos, but underground it was quieter still. Too quiet. A sudden clatter echoed from the shadows. Mara froze. Her brother whimpered. A figure appeared, a man in a torn coat, holding a flashlight. His eyes were wild, frantic. "Please, I just want to survive," he said, voice shaking. Mara glanced at the driver. "Do we trust him?" "No," the driver said flatly. "But we can't leave him behind. Not yet." They moved together through the tunnels, the unknown stretching endlessly ahead. Above them, the city burned. Below, survival was a fragile thread, One wrong step, and they'd become part of the statistics. The purge wasn't just outside. It was in their minds. Every heartbeat, every whisper, every shadow could be death. And there were still hours to go. The tunnel stretched for miles, damp and echoing with their footsteps. Dripping water pooled along the cracked concrete. Rats scuttled in the shadows, but the sounds above were worse: screams, gunshots, sirens. The city convulsing in chaos. Mara held her brother close. "Stay behind me." They moved cautiously, following the driver's flashlight. Every turn brought the echo of movement. A distant shout, the clatter of metal, a scream cut short. "People don't think when they're scared," the driver muttered. "They just act. Kill first, ask later. That's why the purge works." Mara clenched a pipe she'd picked up at the bunker. Her knuckles ached, but it was better than nothing. A sudden sound ahead made them freeze. Footsteps. Two figures emerged, a young couple, both armed with kitchen knives. Their eyes were wild, desperate. "Stay back," the woman hissed. "We won't hesitate." Mara raised her pipe. "We're just passing through. We don't want trouble." The man laughed bitterly. "Trouble found you the second you came into the tunnel." The tension stretched thin, a fragile wire ready to snap. Then a loud crash echoed from behind. The tunnel wall shook, dust raining down. The couple turned their attention upward. Mara realized they weren't alone. A second group of attackers, teenagers with baseball bats, dropped from a broken maintenance ladder. "Run," the driver shouted. They bolted through the tunnel, slipping over puddles, screaming as the chaos followed them. They emerged into the city near a collapsed bridge. Smoke and fire filled the streets, twisted metal and rubble everywhere. Cars lay abandoned, engines still running, doors open like mouths frozen in a scream. A group of men in masks chased a lone family down the street, laughing as they swung bats. Their victims screamed, trying to climb over the rubble. Mara grabbed her brother. "Move, don't stop." They ran down a side alley, only to find it blocked with a burned-out bus. Through the shattered windows, she saw bodies piled inside. "It's everywhere," her brother whispered, voice trembling. "Keep moving," Mara said, though her voice was tight with fear. Above them, a drone buzzed, the first of many. Red lights flickered on its underside. It scanned the street, recording, tracking. "The government's watching," the driver said. "They're tracking movements, predicting who will survive. Every decision counts." Mara swallowed, realizing there was no escape. Not from the streets, not from the watchers, not from the terror itself. They found temporary cover in an abandoned factory. Broken machinery jutted from the floor, conveyor belts twisted and rusted. Shadows danced across the walls from the flames outside. The driver led them to a room with supplies, cans of food, bottled water, and blankets. "This is our sanctuary for now," she said, her voice low. Mara's brother fell to the floor, exhausted. "Will it ever end?" "No," Mara whispered. "Not until sunrise, if we survive that long." A sudden noise froze them, metal scraping against metal. The windows shattered. A group of masked men, laughing, entered, swinging chains and bats. "Looks like fresh meat," one of them said. Mara grabbed a pipe and swung. Sparks flew as it connected with a metal chain. Her brother ducked behind a crate, covering his ears. The driver pulled out a pistol, firing quickly. The attackers retreated momentarily, giving them a chance to slip out another door, deeper into the factory's maze of rusted corridors. Every corner held a new danger, every shadow a potential attacker. The purge wasn't just outside. It was inside them, infecting every step, every heartbeat, every breath. They climbed a stairwell to the factory roof. Smoke from burning streets below curled into the sky. Sirens echoed like distant thunder. Suddenly, a helicopter spotlight cut across the rooftop. People below screamed as masked snipers fired toward them. "We have to jump," the driver shouted. Mara's brother froze. "Jump where?" down to the next building. Without time to argue, they leapt, rolling as they hit the rooftop below. Mara's legs scraped against metal. Her brother fell but scrambled up immediately. From the higher rooftop, figures leaned over the edge, watching them with rifles. Mara's hands shook as she realized they were trapped in a web of killers and spectators alike. The city had become a theater of death, and they were unwilling actors. "Keep moving," the driver urged. "They won't stop until sunrise or until we're dead." They found a temporary alleyway, leaning against a wall to catch their breath. Mara's brother looked at her. How many hours left? She checked her watch. 3, maybe less. The driver shook her head. No one knows what time it is for anyone. Some areas the purge never stops. People turn on each other. Some killers never rest. Above them, the city was alive with chaos. A building exploded, sending fire cascading onto the street. People screamed, some laughed. Others were frozen in place, staring at the inferno. Mara realized the truth. This wasn't just survival. It was a test, a psychological experiment. And somewhere in the government's eyes, they were being watched. Every choice, every breath, every scream was being cataloged. "If we don't find a safe place soon," the driver said, "we won't last until sunrise." Mara tightened her grip on the pipe, ready to fight again. The purge was far from over, and the night was only halfway done. They reached an overpass overlooking the city. Below, the streets were alive with chaos. Fires raged uncontrollably. Screams, gunfire, sirens, and laughter mixed into a cacophony. Crowds of masked people roamed like predators. Mara clutched her brother's hand. "We can't go down there," she said. The driver squinted through the smoke. "There's another way, a maintenance elevator that leads underground. It's risky, but it's the only option." Suddenly, a car barreled across the overpass, tires screeching. It swerved, spraying debris. Mara ducked instinctively. A masked figure leaned out, waving a machete, shouting to whoever was in the car. The purge never stops for anyone. The car crashed into the railing, tumbling over the side into the streets below. Flames erupted from its fuel tank, and Mara shivered at the sight. "We have to move," the driver said. "They're tracking everything, every movement, every choice. Every street could be your grave." The maintenance elevator was rusty and groaning, but it worked. They descended into a network of tunnels beneath the city, a labyrinth of sewage channels, abandoned subway lines, and forgotten service corridors. "Stay close," the driver whispered. "These tunnels are safer but not safe." They walked for what felt like hours, the hum of distant chaos above reminding them they were still hunted. Every sound, a drip of water, the echo of a distant footstep, made them flinch. A sudden scraping noise echoed from the shadows. Mara froze. "Who's there?" she called. A man stepped out unmasked, blood smeared on his shirt, eyes wild. You're alive." The driver didn't respond. Mara stepped forward. "Are you with them?" He shook his head violently. "No, I've been hiding, trying to survive." Mara hesitated, then nodded. "Then move with us, quietly." The tunnels stretched endlessly, twisting in every direction. Mara realized the city above was gone. The purge had erased everything. The tunnels opened into an underground complex, once a storage facility. Now it was transformed into a twisted arena. Screens lined the walls, showing live feeds from every district in the city. Red dots marked each survivor, some blinking rapidly, death imminent. A voice boomed from the speakers. "Welcome, participants, to the true purge. Observe the chaos. Learn who survives, who deserves to." Mara's stomach turned. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was entertainment. The city above had become a game. People in hoods patrolled the arena, watching, recording, taking notes. Some dragged unconscious survivors to holding cells. It's worse than we imagined, the driver said quietly. This is the control center. The mastermind is here. Mara looked at the monitors. Every street, every alleyway, every rooftop was visible. Every death, every scream, every choice was being cataloged. They're using fear like a weapon, she whispered. The driver nodded grimly. And they've already predicted most of the survivors' moves. We have to stay unpredictable or die. Suddenly, a screen flickered. A man appeared standing behind a desk, his face calm, cold, smiling like a predator surveying his domain. "Ah," he said, voice smooth and controlled. "So you've made it this far, impressive." Mara felt a chill run down her spine. Who are you?" she demanded. "The architect," he said. "The purge is not chaos, it is order. We have tested humanity, observed behavior, curated it. Fear, violence, survival instinct, all tools to shape the world above. And now," he gestured to the screens, "it's time for the final experiment. Your city will never be the same, and neither will you." The monitors shifted, showing their every step in the tunnels. He had been tracking them all along. "You can run, of course," he said, smiling wider. "But survival is never random. It is calculated, and your moves are already predicted." Mara gritted her teeth. "We won't let you win." He tilted his head, amused. "Win? My dear, this isn't about winning. This is about evolution. Humanity must endure the purge, or it deserves to be purged itself." Above ground, the city reached its breaking point. Buildings burned uncontrollably. Bridges collapsed. Traffic lines twisted into wreckage. Thousands of masked purge participants ran through the streets like animals. Mara and her group emerged from a side exit, crouched low. Their goal: survive, reach the control center, and end the nightmare. The driver whispered, "If we destroy the control system, we might shut this down at least until sunrise." They moved through abandoned streets, dodging snipers and roving gangs. Fires reflected off shattered windows. Every step was a gamble. A wrong move could be their last. The city had become an inferno of human desperation. The screams and laughter blended into one endless sound. Mara's brother clutched her hand, eyes wide with fear. Will it ever stop? She didn't answer. She only moved forward, her grip tightening, knowing that to survive the longest night, they would have to confront not just the city, but the mastermind controlling it all. Mara's lungs burned as they ran through the streets. Smoke and fire painted the city in orange and black. Every alleyway held danger. Masked gangs wielding bats and rifles. Families turned against each other. Looters carrying torches. Vehicles overturned as barricades. The driver pulled Mara and her brother into a side passage, leading to a government building. "The control center is here, but it's heavily guarded. We'll have to move fast." Mara nodded, gripping the crowbar she had picked up in the factory. Her brother's hands were shaking in hers. Above them, sirens and explosions reverberated through the concrete jungle. They moved like shadows, creeping along the walls, avoiding pools of burning oil and broken glass. Every step felt like a gamble. From a nearby window, a masked figure raised a rifle. A single shot shattered the streetlight, sending sparks into the air. "Keep moving," the driver hissed. The building loomed ahead, black and foreboding. Steel doors reinforced with bulletproof panels blocked their path. The mastermind's voice echoed from speakers above. "Ah, I see you've made it this far. Impressive. But your journey ends here." Mara tightened her jaw. "Not if we can help it." The doors groaned as the driver forced them open. Inside was a maze of corridors, flooded with surveillance cameras. Screens flickered with every street in the city, displaying red dots marking live targets. Every survivor, every fighter, every victim. "This is it," the driver whispered. "The heart of the purge." They moved carefully, shadows sliding along walls. Every step triggered an alert, cameras swiveling to follow them. Suddenly, a trapdoor opened. A group of armed guards dropped down from the ceiling. Mara swung the crowbar, sending one sprawling. The driver fired, hitting another. Her brother screamed as a third guard lunged at him. Mara pushed the boy to safety and knocked the attacker unconscious. The corridors twisted into a labyrinth, the lights flickering like warning signs. Each monitor above them showed the chaos outside, the city burning, screams echoing. The mastermind's voice rang again, smooth and controlled. "You can't hide. Every step you take has been predicted." Mara realized he wasn't exaggerating. Every movement, every choice, every fear had been tracked from the moment the purge began. They reached a massive chamber at the heart of the building. The mastermind sat behind a desk, calm and collected, screens surrounding him like a king in his throne room. Our guests have arrived," he said. "I've been expecting you." Mara stepped forward, crowbar raised. "You've killed enough, end this now." He smiled. "Killed? No, I've merely guided evolution. The purge is a reflection of humanity. Fear, violence, desperation, all tools to reveal who survives." The monitors flickered, showing live feeds of their path through the city. Every close call, every scream, every decision recorded, cataloged, studied. "And now the final experiment begins," he said, pressing a button. Red lights flooded the city. Doors slammed, barricades dropped, automated drones began tracking every movement above. 3 hours left," he said calmly. "Will you survive?" Mara's fists clenched. "We'll make sure no one else suffers this way." Above ground, the city erupted. Automated barriers dropped, cutting off escape routes. Drones hovered over burning streets, firing warning shots. Fires spread faster than ever. The remaining purge participants roamed like predators, encouraged by sirens and flashing lights. Civilians barricaded themselves in buildings, screaming, praying, or running blindly into the streets. Mara, her brother, and the driver raced through corridors and maintenance tunnels, using the map from the bunker to navigate. "We have to disable the main control system," the driver said. "It's in the central hub directly above us." Explosions rocked the streets. A nearby bridge collapsed, sending cars into the river below. Mara's brother cried out, clutching her hand. "Keep moving," she yelled. "We're almost there." Every step was a test of courage. Every corner a potential death trap. The mastermind's voice echoed over speakers, taunting them, predicting their moves, enjoying their fear. They reached the control hub, a massive room filled with servers, screens, and red emergency lights. The mastermind stood in the center, calm and confident. "Congratulations, you've made it, but the night is not over." Mara charged, swinging the crowbar. The driver fired. Her brother ducked behind a console. The fight was chaotic. Sparks flew, alarms blared, monitors shattered. Mara smashed servers with the crowbar one by one. The lights flickered. Red dots disappeared from the city feeds. The mastermind tried to escape, but the driver tackled him. Mara struck the final blow, hitting the main console. Suddenly, silence. Above ground, the city froze. Fires smoldered, but no new explosions erupted. Drones powered down. The purge participants stopped moving, stunned, uncertain. Mara collapsed, exhausted. Her brother hugged her tightly. The driver looked at her. "It's over for tonight." The sun rose slowly over a scarred, burning city. The streets were littered with wreckage, abandoned vehicles, and the stunned survivors. Mara whispered, "We survived." But in the shadows, the mastermind's final message blinked on a screen they hadn't destroyed. This was only the beginning. Humanity will be tested again. And somewhere deep in the city, the purge machine awaited its next cycle. The longest night had ended, but its horrors would linger forever.